And that's our top focus in this edition of Fine Print. U.S. President Donald Trump has passed a crucial test with flying colors. No, it's not a political test, but it does have a bearing on his political career. Let's tell you more. The U.S. president called for his own medical checkup, a highly unusual decision that appears to have stemmed from the explosive claims in the recently published tell-all book, Fire and Fury. The White House doctor who examined President Donald Trump has given him a perfect score on cognitive skills, which he says shows that he is perfectly fit to discharge his duties. And he's also confirmed that the U.S. president himself asked to undergo this cognitive test to answer his critics.
The president is mentally very sharp, very intact. And
do you believe he is fit for duty?
Absolutely, he's fit for duty. I think he will remain fit for duty for the remainder of this term and even for the remainder of another term if he's elected. The American Psychiatric Association has said so too. I think that the people shouldn't be making those kinds of assessments about the president unless they've had the opportunity to get to know him and examine him. And in my opinion, that's just tabloid psychiatry, and I just don't. I'm not going to address it or fall into to responding to those kinds of questions or accusations.
So what else does the medical test of one of the world's most powerful leaders reveal? Well, the U.S. president is 71. His appendix was removed when he was aged 11. He has high cholesterol and borderline obesity. The doctor says he is in excellent health. But the reporters who attended that press conference asked some tough questions to the doctor. How can someone who survives on McDonald's and fries be so healthy? Well, the doctor put it down to the president's genes. Take a listen in for yourself.
It's called genetics. I don't know. It's some people have just great genes. I told the president that if he had a healthier diet over the last 20 years, he might live to be 200 years old. I don't know. I mean, he has incredible genes. I just assume. But I would say the answer to your question is he has incredibly good genes, and it's just the way God made him.
Let's also point out how unusual this press conference was. It went on for 1 long hour, and the doctor answered every little detail about the U.S. president's health at Donald Trump's own request. We will continue to break down what that report tells us and the implications of the president himself asking to be undergoing that test. We're joined in on this special broadcast by Dr. M. Wali, a senior consultant in medicine at the Gangaram Hospital, and he was also a former physician to 3 presidents of India. Also joining us is Ray Locker, national security editor of the USA Today. Also joining us is Dr. David Rees, clinical psychiatrist from Rhode Island, United States. Coming to you first, Ray, that the president wanted this test to actually give a solid response to his critics. We've heard a lot about his mental health, about his mental stability, especially in the wake of the book Fire and Fury. To your mind, what surprises you the most about the fact that the president voluntarily said that, yes, I want to prove my mental health status to the United States of America?
Well, I guess it's somewhat of a surprise that he would agree to do that. Take sample tests, so if he wanted, how he would do on that, so beforehand, knowing that he would have done well enough for the doctor to talk about it. Also, very often, if something is done and the president doesn't want to talk about it, and not just this president, but other ones, then they don't talk about it. They could have just denied that they ever took the test if they didn't like the result.
Or we'll just try and reconnect that line with Ray. David, this is a test which is reliable but also does not tell one of cognitive ability decline. What does that mean to those uninitiated? What does this MOCA, Montreal Cognitive Ability Test, really tell the United States about their leader?
Well, it's a screening test. It's not an in-depth test. It takes about 10 minutes to administer, and it will tell you whether or not someone has severe or significant impairment, and it's obviously a relief that it appears that there is none. It doesn't measure more subtle indications of problems. It's not a full battery of neuropsychological testing. So what I would say is it's reassuring, but it's not complete.
Reassuring but not complete. Dr. Vali, if I can come to you at this point, it's also important to outline for our viewers that this is not the first time that we are hearing of Donald Trump's mental health and ability and his cognitive abilities, given there's been so much criticism and so much debate about his mental health status. But this is definitely the first time we're looking at a U.S. president who's undergone a medical test of this nature to prove his mental ability and capacity. Dr. Vali, apprise our viewers of how it really works in India, because we've never heard of an Indian leader, for instance, undergoing a test to prove his mental ability. Leave that aside, even the medical health records of presidents and prime ministers are hardly made public. From your experience of having been the physician to 3 presidents, what does this report card of U.S. President Donald Trump mean to you?
Well, it's very bold of him to have come forward with this test, and also bold for him to declare it to the public consumption, and very nice reports in the scorecard which he obtained, full marks, 30 out of 30. Usually we test the mental abilities when we doubt about it. And in our country, the health information of the VVIPs as a tradition is kept classified, or you can say secret, which is not for the public to know, but they see the VVIPs moving around, talking to the people, and they have their own assessment. But this test, I would say, it's not the usual test which is done in the neurology, or you can say to diagnose early Alzheimer's disease. But this is one of the very sensitive tests which is above at par with the common test which is called mini mental score or mental examination. So this has been modified recently in only 1996 by one neuroscientist, Zaid Nasiruddin of Montreal, and that's why it is called MOCA, or you can call it Montreal Cognitive Assessment. So this is how we can note the simple points and then award scores against each. Like I will tell you, like short-term memory recall. If I tell you 5 names and ask after 5 minutes, if you forget, then there's something wrong. Then we see the visual spatial abilities, then attention, concentration, language, command, date, city, finally. And we give various questionnaires. Like I'll give you an example. If a patient or a person has got inability or shrinkage of the brain or microvascular damage or a stroke, or any disease causing presentation like Alzheimer's, we ask him to draw a clock. And in a milder impairment, he will draw a clock without correct time. If you ask to draw a clock, he may draw the clock with 1 to 12 hours. But if you ask him to put the time, he instead of 2:30, he can put 2:45 or 2:47. So this is very mild, and in the second case, he may not be able to draw the perfect clock. Or in the very severe Alzheimer's disease, he may not draw the clock at all.
Sure, that's a brief outline of what this test is really about. Dr. Vali, I'll just come back to you. Let's also, for the benefit of our viewers, outline what this MOCA test is all about. U.S. President Donald Trump wanted to undergo this test to prove to the world, to prove to the people of the United States of America that there is absolutely nothing wrong with his mental status, that he is fit to govern. Of course, to provide a strong rebuttal to those criticizing his mental health, especially in the light of the book of Fire and Fury, which questions his mental capacity, his mental abilities, and also questions and says that the U.S. president is not mentally fit to be in office. What is this test all about? It's called the Montreal Cognitive Assessment, or MOCA. The test takes 10 minutes. 11 questions are designed. These are 11 sections that are designed as a quick screen for a mild cognitive impairment. It's useful in detecting conditions such as dementia and Alzheimer's. The points are earned by successfully completing each section. It's intended to test a patient's attention, concentration, memory, language, and conceptual thinking, among other skills. Let's now tell you what the US president underwent as a part of that MOCA test. The various tasks include copying a cube, drawing a clock, remembering a series of words, and repeating sentences. During his medical evaluation, the president would have been asked to name a lion, a rhinoceros, and a camel based on drawings. He would have been required to repeat the words face, velvet, church, daisy, and red twice. And again, after 5 minutes, as a memory test, other tasks including repeating a sentence of 3 numbers backward and describing the similarity between a train and a bicycle. Sentences the president would have been asked to repeat are mildly complex. For example, one of the samples that the president went through, for example, was the cat always hid under the couch when dogs were in the room. A sample of similar sentences that are a part of that MOCA test. Let me take that across to David. Doctor, this is, of course, a test which the president has sought to rely on to prove that he is mentally fit to govern. But relying purely on your experience as a psychiatric, how complicated are these questions? How difficult are these for a layperson to actually answer?
Oh, they're not particularly difficult. They are a good screening for any significant problems and some mild problems. They do not test judgment or other issues, but they do help to determine if someone should have further testing or if there is a relatively severe problem. Very minor issues might not be picked up. It's not perfect, but it's a good screening to show that someone can do what they're asked in those basic ways.
All right. Ray, to your understanding, will this report, as David just outlined for us, it's not a complicated set of questions that the president had to answer. Yes, he scored 30 on 30. He passed that test with flying colors. But will this be sufficient as a rebuttal to those questioning his mental abilities? Would this be sufficient to say that he is fit to govern?
Will this be sufficient as a rebuttal? I think the answer to that is no. I mean, I think there are a number of Americans who want to believe that the president...
All right, a bit of an audio glitch there. We'll just try and reconnect with Ray Locker. But he did tell us what his impression of whether or not this will be a sufficient rebuttal to critics. He said no, and I want to take that across to David again. David, many are asking why the president chose a test like this to actually prove that he is fit to govern. To your mind, because this is not a complicated set of questions, would it be safe to assume that many are able to answer those questions with flying colors, are not able to, are not really challenged with those questions? So this is not a test which a layperson would also not be able to answer.
Well, it doesn't test judgment or other issues, but it is a standard screening, basically for anyone over 70, and not in politics, just any person over 70. We will generally do a test like that as part of a routine examination. So it's a common test that's used. It's very appropriate to anyone over 70 years old. And the results are reassuring that there's no severe problems, but it doesn't answer other questions that aren't really asked by the test. But for that basic screening, it showed that he was clear and that there's no significant problem.
Okay, Ray, I want to allow you to continue with the point that you were making earlier on, that this will not be a sufficient rebuttal to critics. All right, a bit of a difficulty there in that line with Ray. Dr. Vali, you were talking about how this is definitely a bold step that the president has taken in his capacity to try and prove that he is mentally fit. But does this not also break convention, according to you? Does this not also tell us that the president here has taken a test which many would be able to pass with flying colors as well, but has chosen to take that test only because of his nervosity, because he's jittery, to prove to the world that he is fit to govern?
I don't think he needs to prove to the world. You see, once you are elected, you are elected. I mean, the public has testified your mental fitness as well when they vote you. So what is interesting in this is that this test only tests the mental ability as far as our cognitive function, as you have said, like diseases like Alzheimer's disease, very early detection of the Alzheimer's disease, and memory recall, and so many other things. But there are certain psychiatric tests or psychometric tests which also we have a battery of tests to examine the behavior or behavioral abnormalities in patients. Like in children, we do those tests. In some other conditions, we do these tests. So, I mean, to me, doing this mini mental score and modified and sensitive form of this Montreal cognitive test examination, it is not the only test with neurology to complete the evaluation of the brain. You may go on any number of tests. You may go on doing MRIs. You may do the vascular studies. You may do MR angiography. You may do the other tests like scans, many other scans we do these days, sensitive scans. I mean, this is not to justify for a person of his eminence that, look here, I'm fine, he's fine. Okay. I mean, without these tests, also one who is on chair is fine. And I have seen people who remain in the positions, their abilities improve, even if they have a mental problem or they have, I mean, some subclinical problem. So what I'm trying to make point here is the power makes you perfect. That is what I would like to say. Power makes you perfect.
Well,
so
if that was the
in
case,
my
then
opinion, there is no need to test.
Well, if that was the case, then the president's mental capacity would not have been questioned at all. But it has been on multiple occasions, on multiple platforms, and which is why the president has chosen a test like this to prove that he is fit to govern. Let's also tell you why this test is unusual. Presidential medical evaluations typically do not include a mental health check. Former President Barack Obama's last medical summary, for instance, listed only the results of a series of physical tests and told us which medications the president took. Let's also tell you how it works in a country like India, as we just discussed. The health records of our leaders are not made public. Mental health tests are also unheard of. I want to wrap this up with just going across to David one last time. In your capacity as someone who is aware of the intricacies of how this test works, does it surprise you that a president of the United States chooses to undergo a test of this nature?
Actually, in our medical system, no, that's not surprising, because if I went in for an examination for a general physical, being 65 years old, that would standardly be part of the examination. Maybe not that test, but something like that. So we do generally screen anyone over 60 or 65. Now, the fact that it was a big issue, that he announced the results, that's a bit unusual. But in our medical system, it would be very common. In fact, it's highly recommended that a test like that be used for anyone over 65.
All right, we're going to leave it there for the moment. David, Dr. Vali, and also Ray Locker, appreciate you joining us on the broadcast with your perspectives.